Hey y'all, my name is Peyton Schaffner, and I'm going to be talking today about training new employees. It's one of the biggest issues in my industry, in the restaurant industry. Training is a huge deal and is sometimes taken a little lightly. So I'm going to talk about it really quick. What is training? Training within the hospitality industry is very important. Training is the key to having great employees that know what they're doing. Training needs to be continual, not just a one-time thing, and training needs to be universal and available to every employee. I'll talk a little bit about training being continual. You don't want to just train your staff and then after a couple months, they're not getting any more training. They're going to do the same things. They're going to do shortcuts. They're going to try to make their job as easy as possible. Sometimes you're going to have to touch up and polish trainees as they move along. So continuing education is always important. If some problem changes, if menu changes, if you have drinks, I'm just using the restaurant industry as an example. Whatever you change in your restaurant, your employees need to be trained on how to spill it to guests, how to make sure that it's being talked about, and to make sure they're knowledgeable about their product so that their guests don't suffer. Training needs to be universal and available to every employee. This means every dishwasher, cook, server, manager needs to be trained in as many areas as possible. It needs to be available to every person. You don't need to just train your managers and then expect your servers to know everything that they're doing. You can't just train your dishwashers on how to wash dishes. They need to know where to put things. They need to know how the kitchen runs. They need to know where trash goes. Making it universal and available to everyone. Training is the key to having great employees that know what they're doing. I've been thrown into a couple places where they didn't train me properly, and then you're kind of left out to the wolves. And you get guests who get very angry if you don't know what you're talking about, and you kind of look dumb, and it just doesn't overall help your company excel because none of your people know what they're talking about. So it is always better to equip your employees, have high expectations for them, so they have high expectations for themselves and can help the guests. Why is training a problem? I have a couple points on this. Training is a problem in the service industry especially because we have experienced people that we make trainers that might be very good with people but not so good at teaching. So we have trainers that are making shortcuts and telling the trainees that not everything is important. And we have trainers that just kind of do everything for their trainee and don't let them kind of hands-on work on their own things. Employees don't always do things the correct way for training. Sometimes when you're training someone and you're in the weeds or you need to get to a certain table or you're behind on something, you won't even go over the way that a lemon and a spoon needs to be provided with an unsweet tea, or that a straw needs to be provided for a Coke. You might just skip over that entire thing and just go straight to just put this there and let's just go to the table. Let's just get it over with. Trainees need to be aware that everything is important. Everything that they're talking about and everything that is being discussed is important, no matter how small, like the straws and the lemons. Everything needs to be important. Management and training. Managers have to be key leaders and motivators for training. If you have managers who are walking around not really caring about their job, they're on their phone, they are not putting any effort whatsoever into the job itself, you're going to have employees who start catching on to that, and they don't want to do their job either. Why should I do mine? The management staff isn't even doing theirs. So you have to have management that is motivational and encouraging and always on top of things. When management is lackadaisical about training and their job, it's reflected in the training of others. If they don't really care they're not going to necessarily care about how well they train others. So you really need management to be in place and to be strongholds and know everything that they're doing so that they can prepare their employees. Management needs to hold employees at the highest standard possible for the establishment to run smoothly. This just goes into the same thing that I've been reiterating. If you have management that is held at high standards, you can hold your employees at high standards. And if people aren't meeting those standards, then how to train well, have motivated employees that want to train others to do well. If you have new people coming in to your job, you want to train them to be the best that they can be so that they don't run you behind when you're working. You want them to be able to do everything, and that goes into training. You want to train them well and make sure that they are trained to the best of your ability. Have management in place to assist with motivation and training. Management can kind of guide how the training needs to go and what steps to take and checklists and that sort, and they can come up with paperwork that makes the training process a lot smoother. Have detailed and long trainings, even if it's costly. I've always liked working at places that have intense major training sessions because I'll know what I'm doing when I leave the property or the place. I know what I'm doing when I'm done training. I don't feel like I'm thrown to the wolves. I feel confident in myself so that I can do the best job possible. That's how your training needs to run as well. Training sets the pace and tone for your staff. If you are always throwing people to the wolves, they are less confident. They don't know what to tell the guests. They don't know where things are. And you just run into problem after problem because they're constantly having to ask where things are, how to do something. Train on every single thing, no matter how big or small. Like I talked about, training on polishing silverware and how to fold a napkin and how far the silverware needs to be off the table. Seems like small things, but when you add it all together, the guest pays attention to every single detail, and so should you. Train in fun ways or employees will lose interest. This just goes along with you don't want anything to ever be routine and boring. You want to mix it up, make it fun for people, make sure that they are having fun doing their job. If they're having fun with their job, they're going to have fun with the guests, and everybody's going to have a great experience. So that is my PowerPoint on training. It is super huge and super important, and it is why a lot of restaurants fail in the industry because if people don't know what they're doing, it just cycles over to the next trainer and the next trainee and the next management, and nothing can ever be done because nobody's being trained properly. Thank y'all.